What is on tap for this episode of Cougars Corner? Once again, we're talking Big 12 expansion, we're talking college football realignment, and we're talking what would the four schools that not many people are talking about add to the Big 12, if anything, and should they be invited, and if they were, would they join? And I'm talking about Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, and Washington State. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let me serve you up this shot of top shelf college football content. Let's go. What is up, college sports fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? Welcome in to another edition of Cougars Corner. Pull up that chair and let's talk about the topic of this episode, which is Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, Washington State. How do they look compared to other Big 12 schools, compared to the new Big 12 schools, I should say? Should they be invited? And if they were, would they join? So let's first, you guys seem to enjoy the spreadsheets I've done the last couple of videos. When I did one about Utah, Arizona State, and Colorado potentially joining. And then I did one about Oregon and Washington potentially joining the Big 12. So I decided why not finish out the Pac-12 and do the last four schools remaining. And you guys seem to respond well to the spreadsheets I did, so I decided to do them here as well. First, let's look at Stanford and Cal. When you look at Stanford and Cal and what they bring to the conference, you look at average academic rank, and obviously I took the average of the U.S. News and Wall Street Journal rankings and put them together, averaged them together. Stanford is number 4 in average academic rank. Stanford is the highest ranked academic school in the Power 5. So they would definitely be the best in the new Big 12. And then you've got Cal, who ranks at 29. Obviously another really highly rated academic school. And before I move on, I want to apologize. When I was doing the video about Arizona State and Utah, I said they wouldn't bring a lot academically to the new Big 12, and that is absolutely false. All three of those schools are top 40, if not top 30 academically in the Power 5. So they're all really good academic institutions. Somehow I missed that when I was looking at these numbers. So I want to apologize to the fan bases of those three institutions. I want to get that out of the way. Now let's get back to the topic of the show. But you look at average TV viewers per week. Stanford's 1.4 million. California is 700,000, and the Big 12 average is 875,000. So Stanford would help there in that regard. That would put Stanford third in the new Big 12 in TV viewership compared to other new Big 12 schools, behind only Oklahoma State and TCU and just slightly ahead of West Virginia. And Cal, if you compare them to the new Big 12, they would be 6th. Now you look at average fan base size rank. Stanford, 55th. California, 44th. Average of the new Big 12 is 55. So they would both be either equal to or better than the average. Stanford would be 5th in the new Big 12 in fan base size. Cal would be 4th. When you look at football 5-year ranking, Stanford is number 8. Now, look, there's more criteria here than just wins and losses. This is the overall value of the football program at the institution. This information comes from Mr. Tony Altimore, who most of you have seen on my show or have seen on Sikkim 365, maybe John Kurt's show, maybe Golden Blue Dude, maybe on Mark Rogers. He's been on a lot of different YouTube channels. He puts together some really, really good data as it comes regarding conference realignment, what conferences look for, and that type of thing. And there's 10 different criteria he used when putting this data together. So it's not based on just success on the football field. It's based on overall value of the program. Stanford is 8th, which would obviously be the best in the new Big 12. California is 73rd, which would be 9th. Now, what would each of these individual institutions bring to the conference? Stanford, you're looking at the top academic school, not only in the new Big 12, but in the entire Power 5. And then you got, obviously, the TV viewership numbers were pretty good. They would bring you the San Francisco, California market, the 6th largest TV market in the United States, according to Nielsen. So that would be a positive. They bring you a solid football program. Like I said, they ranked 8th here as far as strength and overall value of the program, looking at all different criteria. They've not been great as of late on the field as far as wins and losses, but they are a solid program. And when you look at other sports besides just football, Stanford may be the best in the entire country. Now, I haven't rated them. I haven't looked at the entire country and every school. But when you compare them to the new Big 12, let's look at that. When you look at Stanford, they have won 128 overall team titles in the NCAA. 128. To put that into perspective, the best in the new Big 12 would be Oklahoma State with 52. So they more than double what Oklahoma State has won, and they're the best in the new Big 12. And then when you look at individual NCAA titles, once again, they would blow the new Big 12 out of the water. 657 individual NCAA titles for Stanford. Oklahoma State, best in the new Big 12 at 231. So Stanford has a top-notch athletic program overall, if you look at more than just football. So Stanford would be a good addition in that regard. Now, should the Big 12 invite Stanford to join? I would say yes. But however, I don't think they would join, and here's why. Stanford's academic ranking puts them right up there. I mean, they're basically equivalent to an Ivy League school academically. They would fit in big time with the Big 10. They would obviously fit in with the Ivy League if they wanted to go that route. They would just be a really bad fit culturally and academically in the Big 12. Now, when you talk about culturally, they're really big on social issues, especially, and they lean more toward the liberal side on social issues like the LGBTQ stuff, like climate change, all these types of things, and it probably would clash with some of the values of some of the other current schools in the Big 12, like the BYU, for example, who's a Mormon school. Their values wouldn't necessarily align. So I'm not sure they would ever even accept an invitation to the Big 12, even if it were given to them. Or I should say, I don't think they would apply for membership into the Big 12. Big 12 can't offer them until they apply. But that being said, I don't think Stanford will go to the Big 12 regardless of what happens. I think they'll be okay. Stanford makes enough money off academic endowments and things like that they really probably wouldn't even need athletics to survive. So they would be happy probably being an independent or going to the Ivy League, and that's if they don't get into the Big 10. There's been some talks that they may end up in the Big 10 along with Notre Dame. Now let's look at Cal real quick. Cal, also a very top-notch academic institution, would help the academic standing of the conference. It would also help bring you that San Francisco market because they're also near San Francisco. They are solid in NCAA sports. They have won 308 individual NCAA titles and 38 team titles. But just like Stanford, I just don't see them as a fit in the Big 12. Once again, very liberal value sets. I just don't think it would be a fit with some of the private religious schools in the Big 12, like BYU, for example. Now you got Oregon State and Washington State. Let's look at them for a minute. Now, most people seem to believe, and I kind of agree, that if there's two schools that end up getting left out of this whole Pac-12, Big 12 talks and teams moving around, I think it could be these two. And here's why. When you look at them compared to the new Big 12, average academic rank, Oregon State's at 232, Washington State 207, Big 12 average 217. While they do fit in with the new Big 12, they don't really improve the conference in any way. Average TV viewers per week, Oregon State 300,000, which would be tied for last with Kansas in the conference. And then Washington State's at 900,000, which would be tied with Texas Tech for fifth in the conference. Big 12 average of 875. You look at average fan base size rank, Oregon State's at 57, Washington State at 59, average in the Big 12 is 55. Oregon State would be tied with Iowa State and UCF for sixth in the conference. Washington State would be ninth. You look at football 5-year ranking, Oregon State 113, one of the worst in Power 5. The only one they would be ahead of in the new Big 12 would be Kansas. And then Washington State is 39th, so not bad. Washington State would actually improve the conference in that regard. But if you brought Oregon State in with them, obviously that would offset it. Washington State would be sixth in the new Big 12 in overall 5-year football ranking. Now, when you look at market size, neither one of these teams bring you a big market either. You look at Oregon State in Corvallis, Oregon, would be the 8th largest city in the league. You look at Washington State in Pullman, Washington, would be the smallest market in the new Big 12. Within a 50-mile radius of Pullman, there's only 120,000 people. So neither one of these programs are going to move the needle from a market perspective either. They're both good, solid schools. They're both good, solid programs. But as far as when you look at these conference deals, when you bring in new teams, they all have to divide the revenue. And if you bring in teams that don't increase the value of the league, then you're causing the current members to all have to take a smaller piece of the pie. I've mentioned that in other videos. Neither one of these teams are going to increase the value of the league, as bad as I hate to say it. So I don't really see the benefit in adding them, unless the two conferences decide to do a full-blown merger, which I don't really see happening, or the legislatures in Washington and Oregon pass a law that says you can't take Oregon without Oregon State or Washington without Washington State, and that is being talked about apparently based on reports. If that would pass and you got a chance to take Oregon, then by all means I'm taking Oregon State with them because you want Oregon for sure, and you want Washington as well, so I'm taking Washington State with them. However, I do not expect those bills to pass. Now let's look. I'm going to put the heat map up here, and this also comes from Mr. Tony Altimore. But if you go to @TJ on Twitter, you can find he shares all this stuff and makes it available to the public, and it's @TJALTIMORE. You can find this information. He shares it. He puts it right there on his Twitter account, on his Twitter feed. But when you look, here's the heat map of the combined current new Big 12 and current Pac-12. He calls it the Pac-10 here comparison. So as you can see, all of the Pac-12 schools would be a fit in the Big 12 as far as performance on the field, as far as academics. They would either be better than or equal to the Big 12 in that regard, in all categories, just about. So they would be a fit. However, if you add all these teams together, unless you're going to drastically increase the value of the conference from a TV perspective, I don't really see the reason in taking every single team. If you can get Oregon, Washington for sure, you take them. Personally, like I said in my previous video, I personally don't see the value in Arizona and Colorado. There are others out there who disagree with that, but I think if you can get all 6 of them and solidify yourself as the third power conference, then I think maybe you should do that. It gives you a lot more inventory for TV networks. It makes you the largest Power 5 conference in the country. So that might be something they could use in TV negotiations. So let me know, Cougars Corner family, what do you think about these 4 schools? Do you think the Big 12 should invite these 4 schools, or do you not? Is there one in particular you think they should over the other ones? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. Don't forget, folks, I have merch. Check out my merch store. I'll leave a link at the top of my description box. You can get the designs on the screen now. I've got shirts, long sleeve shirts, short sleeve shirts, hoodies, backpacks, mouse pads, iPhone cases, hats, beanies, fanny packs. You name it, I've got it right there in my merch store. Check it out. Also, if you want to support me financially, hit the join button right below this video. Become a member of my channel. There's some perks that go along with that. I'll give you shout-outs randomly in videos and live streams. There'll be some members-only content that I share only with my members. An example of that, I recently did a bloopers and gas video that I shared with only my members. You would have access to those types of things. And also along with special emojis that you can use during chats and comments that make you stand out amongst the crowd. If you don't want to support me financially, you want to support me absolutely 100% free, there are ways you can do that by liking the video, sharing the video, commenting under the video, and subscribing to my channel. All those are free, only take a second, and it all helps out my channel. With that being said, I appreciate your support. I appreciate you tuning into this video. And until the next one, Q Country Roads.